All right, welcome. We are here with Tyron. Okay, I don't want to mess up your last name though.
It's
Mowbray?
Tyron, actually. Tyron's my first name. I messed up
Tyron.
my first name. Yeah.
I messed.
Tyron Mowbray.
We should just start this over.
Fine.
This is beautiful. Okay, so it's Tyron and
Yep.
Mowbray.
Mowbray. Yep.
See, but is that normal that people will mess that up frequently?
All the time. All the time.
Okay.
I've been through a whole journey around my name. I hated my name for years.
And you kept it. That was a really interesting point of my process and journey too. It was like I could change my name and be done with this character and like move on from this. But
Mm,
yeah, I felt to keep mine too.
mm.
So Tyron is a relationship and intimacy sex coach. You work with men and women though, right?
Yeah, I predominantly work with men, but I definitely work with women too. My passion is men. My passion is men's work. My passion is men's sexuality, men's intimacy, men's emotional bodies, men's ability to speak and express, um, and to uplevel their consciousness as well. To support men in becoming aware of the aspects of themselves that they know exist and don't have framework for. There's no understanding, because from a very long time when they were kids, they've been told to be a certain way, feel a certain way, act a certain way, think a certain way, or that they are a certain way. And so, to showcase that, yes, that is a part of you, and there's all this other parts too. And that requires consciousness, that requires framework, that requires vocabulary, understanding, structures, systems, but then also to bring them deeply in touch with their bodies and what's true for them, because quite often they think they know a thing. I know I did for a long time, and there's so many other layers beneath that.
Mm-hmm. And so we were touching on that before we went ahead and recorded. So the difference, though, and Tyron, I'm going to do that, wants to actually do and talk about the summit title, which no one's actually done the whole time. So it's a really interesting dynamic. But I think that even can open up that conversation as far as embodiment in consciousness
Mm,
as being light and dark. So like your body has this intelligence, but then having a mental framework or making it conscious, it's part of the integration process. So if you
mhm.
want to just take it away from there, you have so much to say.
Sure. Yeah. So this concept of dark and light, like we have so much, but like we have an ingrained philosophy that dark is bad, that dark is negative, that dark is, everything that is dark is scary. And you watch the movies and, someone's walking down a dark alleyway and it's playing eerie music, or, all the thriller movies, like the kind of, it's always in the dark. Everything happens bad in the dark. And so we automatically, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, have a negative association with darkness in any form or any output. But it's the thing that we are the most attracted to as well. It's like it's got this, yes, it's eerie, yes, it's scary, and for some reason it pulls at us. It's like we are constantly being pulled towards it. Um, and because everything that is scary is also exciting, right? Excitement and fear are the same vibration. It's just depending on how you look at it. um and for me, my journey into the dark, and I believe a vast majority of us, it's a dark is also, like, we also think our unconscious is dark, but our unconscious is our shadow. And the difference between dark and shadow, our dark is just dark, right? There's not, like, whether you turn all the lights off and what's in the room is still in the room, right? It's still there. Everything is the same in the dark as it is in the light. Nothing changes. For me, that's dark. Dark just is. It is what it is, and there's no excuses. The shadow, that's hidden. The shadow is hidden. It is behind something. That is the unconscious. And we, as a collective, and I know I, for a very long time, tend to believe that like everything in the dark is the shadow and unhealthy. And my belief is that if we just want to nut it out very simply so that we can start to expand our perception of light and dark, when we bring it into human awareness, dark is embodiment. It is matter. It is density. It is like physicality. That is dark. Like a rock is a rock. It just is a rock. There's no, it doesn't matter if you shine light on it or turn the lights off or do this or whatever. It's a rock. And that's dark. It is matter. It is a dense form of matter. Light is consciousness. Light is like ascension. It is, love, God, compassion, caring. You get all the yogis and stuff, and tantric gurus and all these types of people. That's light. Light is consciousness. Dark is matter. This just keeps things very simple, right? Like we could talk about this for hours and days and have full summits on it, just arguing this one point. But my belief is that dark is embodiment, which is like emotions, physicality, passion, fire, expression. It's like the human experience, and light is consciousness. And we need both. Like you can't have one without the other. In ancient yogi text, first there was Purusha, which was consciousness, and it was aware of itself, but it couldn't experience itself. Therefore, matter was created, which is prakti, whatever you want to call it. I can't say the Sanskrit word, Purusha and Prakti. And that was matter. And matter was formed so that consciousness could experience itself as a thing, because pure consciousness is just awareness. So there's a dance between these two. Now, in the terms of masculinity, we have so much like dark masculine is the predator, is the perpetrator, is the thieves and the robbers and the rapists and the criminals and the bad boy that rides a motorbike and, whatever, whatever archetype or analogy or category we want to put him in. It's still like the law breaker, the rule breaker, the guy that does what he wants and doesn't follow the rules. And the light is the compassionate, caring husband, partner that, sacrifices what he wants to for the benefit of the family or for the society or for the community or whatever. And, we embed this belief and archetype in all the movies and all the books and all the TV series and all the things that we watch, and that is embedded into us through our entire social conditioning and upbringing. And it's not wrong, but we tend to believe that you can only be one or the other, rather than we have both. You can dance and flow in between the conscious, heartfelt man and the powerful, passionate, animalistic, primal man, and we can dance and flow between the two. And that's actually what makes life exciting, is when you can dance between the two, as opposed to being stuck in this, like, I can't acknowledge this part of me. I can't acknowledge the dirty or perceived dirty, dark, sexual predator, kind of passionate, growling, whatever, because I'm a husband and I'm an employee at a company that does the things, and I like to have long walk on the beach and sunset and hold hands and listen to romantic music, and I love to do that. And I love to roll around in the mud, and I love to like fuck it like often and hard, and I like to tie people up or get tied, like that you can dance in both extremes. And that's a big part of the work that I do with men, is to pull them out of one polarity in a healthy way, because quite often we swing. If for example, I talk about the shadow of the light is something that we don't really talk about a lot, right?
It's important.
The shadow of the light masculine.
Yeah.
It is super important. I just worked with a client. I work with a female client right now. I'm taking her through some coaching, and she just shared that she was with a shaman. She was, somewhere in the world, and she was with a shaman, and he did some shamanic rituals on her and then drugged her and raped her, right? And then said that if you tell anyone, your family's gonna get hit by a car or something like that, and like he was pretending to be a shaman and loving and and whatever, and then There's, because he wasn't prepared. Men like that, and there's lots of it. There's lots of the tantric gurus that have been portrayed or have used their power, so we say, as a way to get their sexual needs met. And it's because men that swing that far are so afraid of just saying, I would like to fuck you. I would like to have sex with lots of women all the time, and I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about it. Because they're scared, because they're going to be labeled as a perpetrator or a sexual predator or whatever. So they swing into the light. Oh, I'm just a loving, compassionate being that follows love and wants it to unfold. And actually they don't take any ownership for the part of them that is primal, that wants to have sex with lots of women, that wants to do this and do that. It's like, just if our society, if all of us could just acknowledge all the parts of us and be like, yeah, there's a part of me that wants to do this and a part of me that wants to do that, we would alleviate so much pressure that we put on ourselves. But we have an identity crisis. We believe that we have to be a certain thing to fit in. Therefore, we suppress a lot of other parts of ourselves. That's a lot of information.
Well, it's interesting too, because you're playing in dense territory with the dark and the shadow, but I think that within those little subtle areas is the taboo nature of owning the shit. And ownership is dense. It's within that dark realm. It's like owning your shit, and that can be excruciating, and that can be a death process, and that's fucking scary. And I'm really curious as far as like, what does it look like to take a group of men through a death process? Like, what the fuck goes on? Like, I can't even imagine, but I can see you and I can feel you, and I see so many men who are doing this work, and it's just, in the throes of it. Is it challenging, or at this point is it become more graceful process?
I mean, it's for me personally, if I'm facilitating something like that, it does become more graceful, right? The more I do it, the more comfortable I get in being able to hold a space of 1, 5, 10, 40, 50, 100 men to go through these processes. And ultimately what you realize is, like, I don't want to hold these men to do it. I want them to be able to hold themselves to go through it, because our entire life is a death. Every moment in our life, we have an opportunity to die, to destroy a belief that we have of ourselves, an identity. And this is what I believe that the world's really going through right now, is a huge ego death, a huge identity death of, like, the identity that we have as a society is not working. It needs to die so that something else can be reborn. Now, how do you
Tyron,
do
is
that?
Your cock? Tyron,
that's my cock. That's my cock in the background. Yeah. Roosting.
I just needed to clarify. Okay.
Absolutely. Our entire society is going through an identity death right now, and it will continuously go through a death, because that's how we live. It's like a constant unfolding of the truth. But yeah, I believe my role in these environments, when I'm running men's events, men's circles, is to give each individual the embodied feeling that they can hold themselves, and at the same time dissolve themselves, dissolve the attachment they have to them having a certain identity or belief system or structure. So it's like, if I, as an example, I work with men. I had a man who was in the SAS, Special Forces in Australia. He was in my program, and there's a lot of identity that comes with that kind of role. He's a soldier. He works in the Special Forces, so he's not just a grunt man. He gets sent behind enemy lines. He gets put in very, very, very difficult circumstances where life and death is his reality. Like, actual life and death is his reality. And he has no issues whatsoever stepping into that role, right? He has committed to his job and his mission on the earth, which he loves and believes in, that he's making the world a safer place, which is, lots of people have different views on that, but he believes in what he's doing, so that's great. But when it comes to the heart, when it comes to personal relationships, when it comes to love, there's and something hurts him, his identity is that he's a strong man and doesn't feel emotion. But that's not the truth, right? It doesn't matter who you are or how strong you are. If someone's close to your heart and they do something and it hurts, you're going to feel. That is a part of being human. So while there's an aspect of his dark masculine that is very well developed, he's very penetrative, he goes after what he wants, he's very committed, there's another part of he's not able to be honest with himself when he's hurting. He's not able to be honest with himself when he needs help emotionally. He could quite easily ring up one of his army mates and be like, hey man, can you come give me a hand doing this? But he really struggles to ring up one of any other friend and be like, hey, can you come and just hug me or hold me or whatever, because he's in an emotional, tumultuous state because his emotions aren't stable because of an experience he's having. So dark looks like in many different ways. And, through the mentorship that he was a part of, it gave him the confidence in himself to be able to go to that place and express that and be seen in it by other men and know that his identity as a strong, powerful man doesn't actually change. His attachment to the identity is the painful part. But the reality is his identity doesn't actually change. He is still the same man. He is still the same man that goes to work and shoots guns and goes, blah, blah, blah. He's still the same man. This part of him is now included. So while I say the identity dies, it's the attachment to what the identity looks like that dies. And on the other side is a more complete version of himself. He's realizing that all the parts of him can be welcome in this identity. It doesn't have to look like a certain thing.
And it's really interesting because I've been doing a lot of digging as far as this Jungian conceptual space of what I think we're going through right now. And you touched on this, but it's the Antichrist, the dark masculine meeting the Christ itself. But it's almost and we touched on cock, but you speak so beautifully about this. So I wanted to bring this through as far as the phallus and all of that. But this penetrative phallus, dark masculine, is almost like this rises in order to destroy the ego and the sense of self and the identity so many times over, until that all that's left is your own phallus, or your own intimate connection with your primality and your power. And you don't need any proof of that as an object reality, but it's a source of power that comes through you. But I wanted to touch there because you were speaking so eloquently about the phallus and your work and journey with men. But if you want to touch on what I just said, if you have any more insight into that.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's this dark and light integration, right? You were talking about the Antichrist needs the Christ, or, and this is the embodiment needs the consciousness, or whatever, however you want to, we need both to live as humans. And when we can understand, when we can understand and not identify and not attach with, but experience and express our emotions, our feelings, our sensitivities, our thoughts, all of a sudden, and this is all the conscious part, right? Because this all lives in our brain, it all lives in our mind. We try to psychoanalyze and compartmentalize and make this and that. And when we can just kind of drop that and come down into the body and express it and release it, and then we can come back into the body, we can come back to love and joy so much quicker. And this idea that there is an antichrist, or that there is a Christ, or that there is a devil and there is a God, or that there is a, you know, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the positive, the negative. Like we live in polarity, up, down, left, right, in, out, hot, cold. You need a polarity to be for experience to happen. You would not experience temperature if there was no such thing as hot and cold. So the hotter there is, the colder there is, and we experience everything in between. It's the same as the dark and the light. It's like, well, what is dark, you know? And actually, to go deeper into the dark, you need to be able to hold more light. And to go more into the light, you need to be able to hold more dark. Because if you were to go super conscious and just like, you know, I lived in a Buddhist monastery for a little while, and people fast for like 10 days, 12 days, 20 days, 30 days, and they meditate, and that's all they do. And what they're doing is they're kind of getting rid of matter. They are becoming, for like, let's say, super conscious. They are focusing purely on consciousness, purely on awareness, purely on removing the thoughts and what's behind the thought, what's behind that thought, what's behind that thought, what's behind that thought. And they're kind of separating themselves from the body. That's why they're not eating. That's why they're not really drinking. That's why they don't take breaks. They don't sleep. They're just in meditation. And you can reach some phenomenally crazy experiences by doing things like that. But you have to hold on to some level of dark. You have to hold on to some level like of like physicality, like matter, because eventually you will die if you don't eat or drink ever and sleep and whatever. You eventually your body will die, and if you believe in souls, your soul will then transcend to whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you are no longer experiencing life. You're no longer in your human experience. So you need to hold, like, whether you have a glass of water a day, or, you know, some goji berries or whatever, like, you need to hold on to matter in order to go conscious. The same as to go into the dark. If, you know, when I started delving into BDSM or sexuality or, you know, power dynamics and stuff like that, when I went into those areas of my life, you need to be able to hold love and compassion and consciousness and awareness of what you're doing, because otherwise you get lost into the shadow and you don't come back into regular life. You know, you can get lost in the power, weird, you know, everything's, you know, and that's what happens with thieves, murderers, rapists. You know, they go into the dark, you know, they start breaking the rules, they start going into areas of their life that are somewhat, you know, shadowy and dark and whatever, and it's a power play, right? Like you see it in all the gangs and stuff like that. It's like, it's all about power. It's all about being seen and heard and respected and dominating, and that becomes their life. And they're not holding love anymore. They're not holding love. They're basically living in fear, and they need to be in this power play in order to feel alive or to feel safe. And they don't feel safe ever, really. They're in constant fear. But if you want to go and understand power, if you want to go and understand sexuality, if you want to go and understand money, like lots of, and you've got to be able to hold light. You've got to be able to hold love and compassion. And that's not to say that the dark doesn't have love. Absolutely, it does. But you've got to be able to hold consciousness. You've got to be able to hold, like, I am doing this for a reason. I'm doing this for awareness, for understanding, for learning, for experience. And you can pull yourself out at any point. And a lot of people can't pull themselves out, or get to a point where they don't believe they can.
Yeah,
And
but I
that's one of
think
the
you
scary
touched
things.
on a really important point, is like, and I'd like to dive deeper in here. It's like, is dark love different? Because this penetrative masculine energy, it's not love isn't necessarily what you think it is, right? Like, when you're there with that energy. And so dark love is different, because it's almost like this masculine penetrative force doesn't have any hooks into the material or psychic plane. It just penetrates. And then it doesn't, like, you know how a lion's head will flare out and then like scrape the inside. There are no hooks like that for the dark masculine. He kind of just retreats back into himself. He doesn't need anything from
Yeah.
anyone necessarily.
Yeah. So this is beautiful. I'm really excited to talk about this part. So the myth that the dark masculine is not emotionally involved or has no emotions, he's emotionally detached. You know, there's this big myth that the dark masculine just does what he wants and doesn't give a fuck about anyone else. And that's that penetrative force you're talking about. He just penetrates whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. And it's like, that's a partial truth, you know. It's like, yeah, there's elements of truth in that, but actually, if dark is emotion, is passion, is fire, is all these things, then he's not penetrating without emotion. He's penetrating with emotion. That's what makes it hot. That's what makes it powerful. He's penetrating with force, with will. The light masculine is kind of penetrating with consciousness. It's very different, right? Light masculine penetration is with consciousness. And it's a very different vibration. It's like it's not as sexy. It's loving and compassionate and caring, but it's not like the grungy, like, oh, like it doesn't kind of get you embodied. It might send your body into activation. You might get like light, oh, but it's, you know, it's not really felt on the skin. So every man, every masculine penetrative force that that we think is emotionally detached is wrong. It's actually driven by emotion. Unfortunately, it's driven by pain. It's driven by hurt. And that's why they don't care what other people think or say. What they're doing, those actions in those moments, are driven by emotion, by pain, by fear, by shame, by whatever. And so they are penetrating without consideration for other people's emotions because they're wrapped up in their own. Now, when you're talking about like the healthy dark masculine, you know, that's the unhealthy or the immature or the not yet fully developed dark masculine. The healthy, integrated, powerful, divine dark mask that penetrates, he is full inside of himself. When he penetrates like that, it is with emotion, but it is not in disregard for other people's emotions, but it is done without, they're like, but what about this? What is like, yes, I hear all of that. And this is what needs to be done now in this moment. And it's going to hurt and it might be slightly painful and it will create a little bit of but it needs to be done. And the prime example of this, and where we don't have enough dark mask in the world, is, oh, this is gonna be confronting for some people. It's like euthanasia, for example. You know, euthanasia as an example. Years ago on the battlefield, when a man's brother in arms was, you know, he'd lost his legs and he was screaming, and you would find him and you would shoot your brother, you would shoot him, or you would cut his throat, or you would kill him, because it was the just and thing to do. It was like, he's got no legs, he's bleeding out, he's in a lot of pain. I'm going to kill him now as his friend for the higher good, for him to go out quickly, calmly. I'm going to kill the thing that needs to be killed so that peace can be felt and experienced by all parties, you know? And obviously the modern version of that is euthanasia. Now, I'm not going to get into that topic too much, but we have lost that in our society. We have become this society that is constantly trying to help and heal everyone, which is beautiful. And at the same time, we've lost the part of us to go, it's time to make the hard decision. And this is a cutoff point. Like, you can't save everyone, no matter what, like whether you're on a boat that's sinking or blah, 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 decisions have to be made. And that's the power of the dark masculine. It's like, I, as an embodied dark masculine person, and I'm not saying me right now, I'm just saying in a moment of my life, I have to make a choice. And I get to make a choice now. And I'm not going to feel sorry about my choice. I'm not going to sit there and be in grief and pain and despair. And, oh my God, it's like, I made a choice. And while it may not have been the perfect choice, it was the choice that was made, that needed to be made in the moment. And I can hold that. And that for me is healthy, integrated dark masculine. I will kill what needs to be killed. Now that's an analogy, and you can translate that into any other area of your life. You know, I killed a relationship that no longer served me. I killed a friendship that was very unhealthy. I quit a job that I didn't need anymore. This killing what needs to be killed is not just the physical act of ending something's life, but it's ending the life of a relationship, an energetic connection that no longer serves me, humanity, my environment, my society, my family, my whatever. And so many of us, men and women, don't have the ability to just kill things that need to be killed in our lives and be like, hey, I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm leaving this job. This is not for me. I'm leaving this relationship. This is not for me. I'm leaving this friendship. It's not for me. Because we have this, like, if you love someone, you will endure all pain. You will sacrifice this. You will blah, blah, blah. You will put up. It's like, nah, fuck that. Like, yes, to some extent, relationships are hard, or relationships require some compromise. All form jobs, relationships, intimate relationships, yes, they all require some level of adaptation. But if you are in distrust, if you are in fear, if you are in scarcity, if you are in trauma, pain, it's time to move on. And you know, I've been journeying this for a couple of years with my ex-girlfriend and the relationship that we were in, and it took me months and months to actually just drop the hammer. And even once I dropped the hammer, there was still so many threads of us trying, and it was just like constantly dropping the hammer of just being like, no, no, no. And sometimes she would be saying no when I was not in the ability to say that, and it was just this constant back and forth, and it's hard.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's full commitment though. It's a
It
full
is.
fucking embodied commitment
It
to
is, yeah.
whatever
And
that
you have to,
choice is.
and when you do that, you're gonna be handed and dealt so many emotional, manipulative, controlling circumstances, which are gonna test and you know, gonna make you really fucking look at yourself and be like, is this what I really fucking want? Am I really fucking prepared to stand here in this and hold this truth? I get it all the time. You know, I did a post on Men Get Raped too a couple of weeks ago, and it received a mixed feedback. You know, it received lots and lots of love, and it received some confrontational feedback from people saying that I was being insensitive to women's rape and to other avenues or other aspects of other experiences. And you know, and then I kept getting told off that I was like doubling down and reinforcing my argument. And it was like, well, this is what I believe, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it's what I believe, and you are saying what you believe, and they can coexist. You know, and that's one of the issues in our world, is that we think that two different opinions cannot coexist at the same time. We think that somehow my opinion and your opinion, they can't coexist. Like mine is somehow taking away from yours, and yours is somehow taking away from mine. And it's like, it's obviously, there are many sensitive topics, and there are some issues where this, you know, can be more true than others. But yeah, we have this ingrained belief that there is only one way, you know, human rights or equal rights or this, that, and all these belief systems and structures, which I'm not saying are wrong at all, but your belief, your interpretation of it could be different to mine, and that doesn't make your opinion or interpretation better or more correct than mine, and mine's not better or more correct than yours.
I think, and I
It's
see
about
things
learning to
like in
understand.
broad
And
categories. So I really want to kind of see and notice the templating that is what is going on. Because I kind of channeled this post on the dark masculine before, but like, so the only thing, because you're standing erect and firm, right? Like you're fully owning that shit. And the only energetic dynamics that they have in their system is like a lesser evil, or because if it were evil, this dark masculine, right? And so they don't have any place to put it, any frame of reference. So it happens then in our body and in our system as an energetic distortion and a threat to our very being, to even have someone stand up as an individual, because it threatens our safety and security in ourselves. So we have to, it destroys us on some level, so we want to destroy it, so we have to retaliate against it to
yeah,
try and like exist in our framework and say that
yeah,
our framework, you know, is not going to be lesser, because it's just
yeah,
that it's like little smaller beasts that was my post, was little smaller beasts will just, and this is where hierarchy comes in with consciousness, is because when you become more and more conscious, it's not that like you're not trying to help, you just can't be self-sacrificial like the light masculine in order to like heal everyone and be where everyone is and make it okay for them to feel what they're feeling or go through what they're going through.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, you say light masculine is self-sacrificial. It's like, he is a man of service. He is a man of God or love or spirit. Consciousness in one way, shape, or form. Which is all religions are. Religions and spirituality are just a form of consciousness. They are just like that's all they are. They are a belief structure or system that we have it's just that we try to make sense of to give our life meaning and purpose, which does not mean it's right or wrong. I'm not trying to make it bad, but that's what a lot of religions and spirituality is. It's like it's a book, it's a reading, it's a this, it's a that, it is consciousness in form, which is writing or which is prayer or which is whatever. And there is a devotional aspect to that. In order to believe in religion, in order to embody religion, there is a devotional act, whether it's, let's say, just use Christianity, for example. You go to church every Sunday and you do communion and you sing songs and you say prayers and you pray before bed. These are the embodied things that you do. And you look at Jesus Christ, who actually was not Christian and didn't preach Christianity. We made Christianity around Jesus Christ. But he sacrificed his life for the sins of humankind so that we could go on living the way we lived. And that is the martyr is one of the shadow aspects of light masculine. Like if we all just went down that path all the time, then and we perceive the Roman Empire to be the dark masculine because they killed Jesus because of his beliefs and because he was disrupting the way life was. But at the same time, it's like there's a lot of dark in Jesus because he held his belief, like in order to go hyper conscious or super conscious into God is everywhere and blah blah, he had to hold that belief on earth in the realms of humans that didn't believe. He had to hold that, and that takes like strength and power while people are whipping the skin off your back to still believe in your faith. Takes a lot of like a lot of dark and light mixed together, faith in God, faith in his God, and to give him power and strength and whatever to get through all of that. So that for me is a prime example of like, it's actually, he's not just light masculine. He had a very healthy, to go into the desert for 40 days and nights and not eat and not drink and face the devil takes a lot of dark to be like, I'm going to go into the desert for 40 days. It's like, that's, I don't see too many, super like, oh, I'm a conscious man, like they're like, okay, go 40 days without eating. Oh, I don't know about that. There's this constant flux. One, but to keep it simple, dark is embodiment, light is consciousness. You need to have both. And one does not make you, by being one or more identified with one, it doesn't mean you don't have the other. And the more we suppress the other, whether you're in the dark and you're suppressing the light, whether you're in the light and suppressing the dark, if everything needs balance, the universe needs balance, that energy goes somewhere. If you are constantly suppressing your dark, where does all that dark energy go? It goes to all the thieves, all the robbers, all the people that don't suppress it. They pick it up. They get it. They embody it more. And for all the people that are stuck in the dark and don't go into the light, where does that go? Well, it goes to all the other people. If we found this part of ourselves and welcomed it all more fully and lived it more fully, there wouldn't be so much shadow in the world because we would be owning all the parts of ourselves,
And your work specifically does this with men and their cock and to own their sexuality and to own that primal energy and to get all the fear and the triggers and all that messiness out of there.
Yeah,
That
can't so like the so my mentorship's called Priest of Phallic Power. It's 4 months long. You know, it's 4 months because it takes a while to reprogram ourselves, you know, like if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, which I've had men at all those ages do this program, whether you're 20 or 30, like you've had that many years of becoming the way you are, you know. And so I'm sorry to tell you, but there's no secret pill or one practice that you can do that's just going to change everything in the blink of an eye. Now, it only takes one moment to change, but it's the time between now and that moment that is the challenge, right? If you want to quit smoking, it only takes one moment for you to quit smoking, but the challenge is from now till then, you know. And so my program is, you know, it's a group format, so it's powerful because you're constantly being seen by the group. You have to show up in group. You get one practice a week by me. You get, you know, you get a consciousness video, so you get me explaining a concept, whether it be light masculine, dark masculine, self pleasure, how to connect deeply to your cock, how to connect deeply to your heart, like whatever it is that we're working on for the week. You get a transmission of consciousness, and then you get an embodied practice to do that week. And the idea is you do it every day for 20 minutes, depending on what it is. As best as you can, suited into your daily routine. So whether it's, you know, self pleasure without cock touch, whether it's, you know, an ejaculation ritual, whether it's writing letters from your heart, or like whatever, there's different exercises throughout the 4 months depending on the topic, and you do that every day. And by doing it every day, you learn something, you know, you're becoming more aware, you are embodying the consciousness that you have been taught. So a lot of men, for example, we think that our cocks, or everyone thinks that we only think with our cocks. You know, he just wants to fuck with his cock, or we're afraid of our cock because the Me Too campaign came out and all men are predators and we're not allowed to, like, you know, we're dirty fucking perverts if we approach women on the street and ask for a phone number and stuff like that. So we either think, we either have the idea or the identity that we only think with our cock, or that we're afraid of our cock and we can't go anywhere near it. And my job is to bring those two polarities into unison. And it's like, your cock is wise as all fuck, and you've got no idea. Same as a woman's womb. You know, women's wombs have all the magic. That's where life is formed. And a man's cock and balls, that is also where life is formed. You know, that's where we penetrate the world, we penetrate women, we seed life with our ejaculation. And we've lost touch of that sacredness in us. And actually, we don't think with our cocks. Very rarely do we think with our cocks, we think with our heads. We walk down the street, you see a hot girl, you're like, oh, I want to fuck her. That's not your cock saying that. That's your mind, because you watch a lot of porn and you watch a lot of magazines, or so you read a lot of magazines, or you have an idea that if you fuck her, that makes you more of a man, or just because she's hot, she likes dirty sex, and then you could blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's all here. And we are thinking that it's down there, but it's not. It's all, this is where we live. And it's really fucking bad for us. We are in an unhealthy conscious developmental stage, and we need to embody a deeper form of consciousness. And so get out of the head, get into the body. What is my body like? Because I could have sex with anyone. Like, I could actually get aroused and have sex with anyone on the planet, any race, any age, any gender, any whatever, if I was fully in my body, because I can get myself aroused all the time. I arouse myself. I bring myself pleasure. I bring myself into states of ecstasy. I don't need anyone else to do it. And so if I'm in that state myself, then it doesn't matter who I'm in front of or who I'm with. I would be able to do that as well. The only reason I couldn't is because my mind is telling me that there is some that I can't, because it's a man, or because she's ugly, or because this, or because that, or whatever, or I'm not attracted to her, or that's this. That's not my body. If I'm completely in my own energy, then I can make myself aroused. And I'm not saying that you need like I mean I'm not there yet as either. Like it's a practice, it's a constant practice. You know, I'm not saying that you could put anyone in front of me, and I would get to a place where I want to have sex with them. Um, but I
You
know that
want
I
to get
could
there though?
to some extent, yeah. Because it doesn't mean about it's. I'm not talking about sex either. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about the ability to see through the physical identity that I have created for this person because of their race, age, gender, you know, social status, clothes that they wear. That's what we judge everyone on as we walk down the street. And when I can sit inside of myself and be like, my heart is open, my cock is aroused, and it doesn't mean it's erect. It just means that my life force is moving. And I'm walking down the street like, and my consciousness is at a level of like, I am one with the universe, and the universe is one with me, and there is no separation. Then I don't want to be an asshole. Then I don't want to take things for granted. I want to love everyone. And that love doesn't mean like kissing. It just means like, I want to help my fellow humans on the planet. I would like to support this. I would like to, you know, it's then I'm in a place of I'm full, my cock is full, my sexual energy is full, my consciousness is aware, and my heart is open. I have abundance of everything to give to people around me. I walk down the street. I mean, it could be simple as walking down the street with a smile, smiling at everyone that I see. Something that simple. If everyone was in that place and walked down the street and smiled at everyone that they saw, was like, "Hey, how you doing? How different would the world be?" You know, it's not about having sex with everyone, but it's at a place. It's becoming so full of your own life force that it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You can hold love for that person. Like that's the grand fucking idea of the work that I do and that hundreds of other people do in the world, you know, like that's for me. I hope that that's the ultimate vision that everyone's trying to hold, is for us to live in a world where love and compassion and generosity are at the forefront, and that, you know, we all just are living in abundance. And we're all humans and we have human shit, and we need to know how to deal with our human shit when that's not the case. You know, when the wife's arguing with you, or the husband is being a dick, or when the kids are being loud and obnoxious, or when your boss is being an asshole, or when your friends aren't ringing you, or when your mum and dad are giving you a hard time. This is real world shit, and you need to have practices in place, and you need to have the understanding and the awareness that while that's all happening, you are a divine child of God, of love, of the universe, and there's nothing wrong with you, and there never has been anything wrong with you, and you deserve everything that you want. And so, like, that's kind of it in a very big nutshell.
Very big nutshell. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time with rehumanizing people lately, and so you've kind of got the gist of it all in that big nutshell.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful. So I think we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but is there something else that felt really important to talk about?
I guess one thing I want to just share, I'm a man. I identify as a man because I have a cock. And for me, that's all it means. That's the only thing that being a man means, is that I have a cock. The type of man that I am, that's up to me, you know? And I'm a man that likes to jump out of airplanes. You know, I got my skydiving ticket at the start of the year. It's fucking awesome. I love it. I'm also the type of man that likes to ride his motorbike at a couple 100 kilometers an hour, which is not illegal, but you know, still very fun. I'm also the type of man that likes to build things with my hands. You know, I'm building my own house at the moment out here in this beautiful rainforest. And I'm also the man that likes to watch soppy romantic movies and cry my eyes out. I'm also the type of man that likes to buy flowers for myself. I'm also the type of man that likes to sit in day spas sometimes and get facials and manicures and pedicures. I'm also the type of man that, you know, that listens to soft, sexy, seductive music, and I like to touch myself and get erotic, and like I like to light candles and spend the night by myself sometimes. I'm the type of man that likes to get in freezing cold water and have hot showers, and like I'm a bricklaying yoga teacher, sex god, fucking little boy crying mess. Like I am everything, and I am whatever I am in each moment, and I'm still a man, you know. Um, and I guess I just want to finish with that. It's like I identify as a man because I have a penis, and I feel like that's a very easy way to determine whether you're a man or a woman. And I'm not trying to argue any non-binary, queer, trans humans who like to experience life differently. You're entitled to experience life however the fuck you want. Um, and I don't see you as a minority if you are one of those people. I see you as a human that is choosing to live life your way. But for the men out there that have a lot of attachment to a man being a certain thing or looking a certain way, and women as well, if any women are listening to this and you have an attachment to how men should think, feel, be, express, I say let it go, because what makes me a man is that I have a cock. That's it. The way that I act, the way that I feel, the way that I express, that's me. That's how I want to express myself. It has nothing to do with me being a man. And I encourage all of us to kind of drop that a little bit and start expressing what's true. I don't believe in vulnerability. I only believe in honesty.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You
You're
don't
either
believe
being
in
honest or you're not.
vulnerability.
No, you're either being honest or you're being dishonest. There's no such thing as vulnerability. It's not real.
It doesn't feel anywhere along your journey painful, to be honest.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't. It's not challenging. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. But we have an idea that vulnerability, to be vulnerable is to like, if you actually look at the definition, it's like to open yourself up to the possibility of being hurt. And it's like, well, why does it have to be that? Why do we have to identify vulnerability as painful? It's like sometimes just being honest. Do you have the courage and the strength to say, I'm not okay right now, I'm hurt, I'm upset, I'm this, that's being honest. I want help, I need help. It's not always vulnerable. It's just you're just being honest. And can you stop lying? And can you be honest? Do you have the courage and the strength to be honest with yourself and with other people?
Because in relationship dynamics specifically, and often, that vulnerability is just that you don't want to say what you actually want to say. You don't want to be honest about the thing that you actually want to say.
You're afraid of losing love. You're afraid of being hurt. You're afraid of hurting the other. You're afraid of something, which I get. It's not easy. It takes courage, it takes strength, it takes power, it takes compassion, it takes love.
It's so beautiful to witness you in these last few minutes. I just love that. And it is just so honest for you. I can feel that. It's just completely owning it. So thanks for sharing that last piece. I think that was, and it was all so good, but I think that was the most important part. So thanks for that.
My pleasure.
And I'll let you get on with your day. I know you have some more calls, but thank you so much. And I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Alison. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. We'll talk soon. Bye, guys.